tell me about the ideal software transaction. What does that company look like? What are the characteristics that you say, wow, that's going to be very exciting? Because what I've heard you say is you can't simply say it's a software or it's a SaaS deal because it may be a software or a SaaS for something that people don't really need. It's more of a hobby. So there needs to be some compelling business purpose why people are going to buy this. What are, give me a case study of an ideal software transaction. And Kelly, get ready because you're coming next.
Okay. So the first thing that I would do, and I'm going to start off a little bit differently because we've run into this situation. A lot of times when these software companies are founded, they have very complicated cap structures. So the challenge is when you go to sell the company, you have very different perspectives on that. And so a lot of times I feel like we're in the position of playing therapist. So first thing you could do is if you could first simplify the the capital structure, right? And make sure everybody's on the same page because you would surprise that's not necessarily the case. Okay. Um, the other thing I think you could do is, like Kelly said, you need to have my ideal software company would be a company that basically has at least 90% out of the box functionality. So it's a product that is very low in terms of implementation service. If anything, the install actually could be done by the customer. So then you don't have to worry about having a bunch of bodies that are going to do the install that you're going to get no credit. And as an advisor, right, we have to explain to the owners of the company that you aren't going to get any value assigned to the implementation services. So again, you want at least 90% out of the box functionality. The other thing related to the software, it's great to have out of the box functionality, but the other thing you want to do, given that you have to configure the system to each customer and it's unique, you want to be able to build the configuration capability and the tools within the system. You don't want to have an out of the box software package and then all of a sudden you're doing custom development because then you have to support all those installs. So again, out of the box functionality, configuration within the system, native cloud, ideally, multi-tenant, multi-instance. I apologize, I'm getting a little technical here for you, Sharon, but I know some of the people participating in this webinar will understand that. Okay. Um, and then Kelly, I'll let you go on from there.
Yeah, I think it really most of the things, and Shauna just hit a nice checklist, but you've we've heard the same themes throughout, and these are things that do define a good software deal, a good software company. Compelling business drivers that are addressed with your software, so value delivered in a market that is growing or in a market that has lots of opportunity within that market. uh, we keep hearing about value delivered, business drivers addressed, recurring revenue. Shauna just hit on cloud functionality, out of box functionality, a lower services component, kind of a get started really quickly so that it scales quickly. And we even touched on direct versus indirect. Um, so yeah, so far this is a great list, and there's been recurring themes. So our visitors here have heard a number of very important things several times, and that's by design because they are incredibly important. And then on the downside or the flip side of that, having project oriented, having to go out and hunt for new customers over and over again, as opposed to having retaining customers. Having multiple versions of code out in the field, or maybe you're maintaining, it just gets complex and that's going to weigh things down.